Friends, recently I've watched an American survival horror movie called Until Dawn, directed by David F. Sandberg. On IMDb, this film got 6.1 stars out of 10, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 54% fresh with an audience score of 69%. Now, for those who don't know, I'll tell you that this film is based on a PlayStation game, also called Until Dawn, which came out in 2015. So in today's video, we'll talk about the story of the movie and its ending, and also compare it with the game, as well as discuss the Wendigo creature shown in it. So with that said, let's roll the intro. So, at the beginning of the film, we see a lady running away from someone. She runs through a tunnel and comes out of the ground, but before she can fully escape, a masked man attacks her. Before it ends, the lady cries and shouts that she doesn't want to be finished again. From here, the scene changes and focuses on a girl named Clover, who has gone on a road trip with her friends to find her sister, Millie. In their group besides Clover, there was Max, who was Clover's ex-boyfriend. Then there were two girls named Nina and Megan, along with Nina's boyfriend, Abe, and they were all in Abe's car. From their conversation, we can understand that after Clover's mother's death, Clover's sister Melanie left her, and she's been missing ever since. However, Melanie definitely sent Clover a video, in which we can see a shop called Hartley's, and Clover and her friends had located that shop. Now, here I'll tell you a little bit about the dynamics between them. Like, Max wanted to become Clover's boyfriend again. Then Nina keeps changing partners every 3 months, and this partner is sometimes a boy, sometimes a girl. However, Nina's friends have always been Clover, Megan, and Max, and this tells us that Abe is new to their group. Megan is a little psychic, where she believes in positive and negative vibes. Also, there was some tension between Clover and her sister Melanie, but now Clover is looking for her. Another thing is that we viewers clearly understand from Melanie's video that the girl who is finished in the first scene is none other than Melanie. Anyway, Clover goes inside the shop where she meets a shopkeeper named Hill, and Hill tells her that a little further from here, there's a mining town called Glore Valley. And many people have gone missing there. So if Melanie had come this far, it's quite possible that she got missing in Glore Valley. Hearing this, Clover and the others drive toward Glore Valley, and on the way it was raining quite heavily. Because of that, everyone was worried, but suddenly they reach an area where there was a visitor center, and in that particular area it wasn't raining. Now this was weird, like a kind of water wall where all around there's stormy, heavy rain, but one spot or area is like that, where it's not raining at all. Well, everyone goes inside the guest house or visitor center, where no one was, but there were some strange things. Like on the calendar, the day was Saturday, October 24th, 1998, meaning 20 years ago. Then there was an hourglass which was running and almost empty. Now when night comes, Nina signs the register, meaning she'll stay here. Abe sees a missing person board here, which had Melanie's photo. Yes, friends, not only that, but Melanie's name was also written in the guest house register as a guest multiple times. During this, Clover feels like someone is outside in the woods, and Clover goes into the woods to investigate. After a while, Max brings Clover back, and when Clover finds out about Melanie's missing photo and the name in the register, she was shocked. Not only that, but they suddenly noticed the hourglass, which had started again, meaning it had been flipped, even though none of them had done it. Things get even weirder when someone takes Abe's car into the woods. They don't follow in case the person is dangerous. By this point, everyone realizes something strange is going on. So Clover, Max, and Megan go down to the basement, which had windows, which was also strange. Then suddenly, a masked man with an axe finishes Abe first, and then Nina as well. After that, he kills Megan and Max, and somehow Clover manages to run outside. Although Clover can't escape, because the masked man finishes her too. Now after this happens, we look back at the hourglass, which turns by itself thanks to a mechanical system. And all 5 of them were alive again from the same point when night fell, and the hourglass first started. Yes, friends, here the game is Time Loop, which we'll discuss at the end of the video. But for now, all 5 of them were quite distressed because they clearly remembered that they didn't survive last night. But somehow everyone was alive now, all of them are back. Now the craziest thing was that on the missing board, all of their photos were now pinned up too. At this point, everyone thinks about running away from here, but then Megan suddenly becomes possessed, and the house lights also go out. They go after Megan, where Megan, in a possessed state, was pointing at the missing board, and the photos there were of Jin. Megan was talking like them, depicting that the people whose photos are on the missing board have all ended up here like her, getting stuck in a time loop forever like them. After this, Megan suddenly collapses and is finished, and everyone panics and locks the visitor center from the inside. Then Clover hears Melanie's voice outside, and despite others telling her not to, Clover goes outside. Now, in front of them, a broken-down house appears that wasn't there before, and suddenly an invisible force pulls Clover into the house. Max wants to save Clover. In fact, Nina wanted the same, but because Abe was new to the group and didn't have a bond with them, he was mostly focused on saving himself. Anyway, inside the broken-down house, Clover sees strange, clown-type masks, and rather we can say they were looking a little like half-mannequins. Then a creepy old woman attacks Clover and says, "Either you survive the whole night, or you become part of this never-ending night." Saying that, the old woman turns into a skeleton and is finished. And that move made Clover possessed. On the other side, Max comes to this ruin-like house looking for Clover, while Abe somehow convinces Nina and tries to run away in the car. They see a big giant monster ahead, which makes them have to turn back. Then a masked man kills both Abe and Nina. Meanwhile, Max, who is looking for Clover, gets attacked by a possessed Clover wearing a mask, and then she gets killed by Abe's car. So yes, once again, the whole group was finished. And I'm using words like finished or done because of YouTube guidelines, you understand. Now, when Max went to look for Clover in that old house, he saw some drawings of creatures, and there was news on TV about a mining accident and also a clown doll. You'll understand the connection to all this by the end. Anyway, once again, the hourglass turns, the night starts over, and they're all alive again. This time, they smartly lock themselves in the bathroom, feeling safe there. Abe drinks water from the tap, and everyone drinks water. But Megan was surprised because before, water wasn't coming in this bathroom. Megan also notices how every time it ends, there are changes in their bodies, like hair falling out, scars appearing, strange teeth coming out, and so on. Now, before everyone plans something further, Abe suddenly coughs and literally bursts. After that, everyone bursts one by one, because the water they had drunk had something dangerous in it that caused such a reaction that they were bursting. Clover is the last one left, and here Hill appears in front of Clover. Yes, friends, Hill, the same guy who met Clover at that gas station shop. And before Clover ends, Hill says she had survived almost until the end of the night. And if she wants to survive, sitting idly won't save her. After that, Clover also ends and the hourglass turns. So again, they have come back to life. And this time they start searching the house to find some clue about what's going on here and how to emerge from here. In this, Clover finds some IDs of Hill's, suggesting Hill is some kind of doctor and is definitely involved in all this. Abe finds a 20-year-old newspaper which mentioned that at that time, there had been a mining disaster in Glore Valley. Basically, while mining, people had dug so deep that the whole town had collapsed inside. And during this incident, more than 1,100 people were finished. Those who survived were traumatized, and to deal with that trauma, Dr. Hill was called, who was some kind of therapist, and he was dealing with the survivors. This is why other homes weren't visible in this area, because they must have been swallowed by the ground. And we were able to see windows in the basement, because the floor above must have fallen down into the ground. These people also find a door in the so-called basement space, but beyond the door was so dark that no one would go. Then Max finds a VHS tape, and inside this tape, they find the answers to many questions. In the videotape, Hill is explaining how instead of giving the remaining survivors therapy, he started experimenting on them. The patients developed muscle atrophy, felt hungry, but most of all, they felt enormous fear. Very much fear. This worked for Hill because the survivors had the trauma of the mining disaster, and the same trauma lingered on visitors. In short, the longer people lived with this fear, they turned into kinds of monsters and finally became like a strange creature we could call a Wendigo. So Wendigos were such creatures that were humans before. Then they came after 13 nights finished and finally transformed due to fear. So if we look at it, these 5 people will also become Wendigos if they are finished 13 times. In fact, the register of this place, right? However many names were written in it, everyone's names were written 13 times only, depicting that if you can't get out of this place before 13 times finish, you'll always get stuck here as a Wendigo. So now you must be understanding why the TV was showing mining news, then clowns were visible, or why those pages had strange creatures made on them. Mostly, this was Hill's experiment. So yeah, hearing all this, everyone's condition is bad, and Clover says she'll meet Hill face to face. To this, Hill says that if Clover comes alone, it's possible, and if Clover is ready to sacrifice herself, Hill will leave the other 4. Clover was kind of ready to take this deal, and Abe was also nudging Clover to take the deal so they could survive. Although the other 3 weren't agreeing because Clover was their good friend. Still, Clover goes alone into the forest where she gets caught in a bear trap, and someone pulls her. On the other side, everyone is angry at Abe because Abe was acting very selfish, and they wanted the loop to start again. Therefore, Nina attacks Abe, while Megan and Max go looking for Clover. Now, again, the same thing happens what you're expecting, meaning first Megan gets trapped and finishes by falling down from a glass door, then masked men finish Nina and Abe. Max meets Clover here, but they had to start a new loop to save their friends. Therefore, Max finishes Clover on her request, then brings himself in front of the Wendigo, by which he also finishes. In short, the loop will restart again. So yes, everyone was alive again, but the twist was that this was now their 13th and final loop. Yes, friends, you must be wondering how this happened. So let me tell you that they didn't actually remember exactly how many times the loop had restarted. Meaning whatever is happening to them, the game of finishing, has already happened 13 times, or this is the 13th time. And they discover this by looking at the register where Nina had signed 13 times, depicting that this is their final loop before they turn into Wendigos. There were many changes in the bodies of Abe and the others, and here in Abe's phone, there were many recordings in which they could see how they had finished in different loops. In fact, many other houses had started appearing outside the house too. Then they noticed that Megan is not with them, and Abe guesses that maybe Megan survived. They check a video on the phone where they find a video that Megan made, and she had actually survived and gone behind, into that basement door where it was very dark. And then, the 4 of them start going through that door into the dark tunnels, so that they can confront Hill and get out of here. They all start following Megan's path where they have to fight Wendigos, but somehow they all were moving forward while surviving. In fact, some masked people also surprise attack them, and in this attack, Clover gets separated from the others. Here, Clover sees her sister Melanie, but as a Wendigo, and unwillingly, Clover has to finish Melanie because she had turned into a Wendigo, and Clover also had to save herself. Then Clover finally finds Megan, who was imprisoned in a room, and a chained Wendigo was slowly breaking the chain to finish Megan. On the other side, Abe, Nina, and Max were together fighting the Wendigos and saving themselves. Now Clover, running here, reaches Hill's office, and Hill also comes there. Clover confronts Hill, and Hill reveals that he is doing experiments, and the creatures they have seen are part of the manifestations of Clover's depression and fear. Here we get to know a little more about Clover, how she is depressed in life. In fact, she had also tried to do something wrong to herself twice. So yes, these monsters are real, but they do showcase human psyche, and somewhere or other, they are manifestations of our negative emotions, especially fear. In short, this place is driven by people's fear and insecurity, kind of like how Pennywise feeds on its victims, and that's what Stephen King does. He brings people together in those horrible scenarios to make them turn into monsters. Now, during all that talk, Clover notices that poisonous water is dripping from a pipe above. Yes, the same water that made the others burst, and she quietly drips some into Hill's teacup. So, as Hill's giving some lecture and drinks his tea, he bursts as well. Okay, then Clover grabs the keys and frees Megan. The others finish off those masked men, and they all run through the tunnels to escape. The Wendigos are chasing them, but they somehow make it to the end of the tunnel, same place we saw Melanie during the first scene. Anyway, they escape in time, and as the hourglass runs out and the sun rises, they realize they're finally out of the time loop. So free from the loop, the group celebrates and drives away, getting out of that place. Last scene of the movie, we're back in the room with all the surveillance screens. The weather suddenly changes from rain to snow, and a car stops here. The movie ends right there. So, friend, that was the story of the Until Dawn film.